Hi pals, it's me, Artie, they them pronouns only. This week I was going to talk about a survival reality TV show I accidentally started watching. I know I say accidentally, I obviously chose to watch it, but I did not mean to watch it for the purpose of making a video. But basically, I started watching Alone. I wasn't sure if it was a drama, like a fiction version of a reality TV show, or just a reality TV show. Turns out it's just a reality TV show. I started watching it because I thought it would be good and useful research for a book I'm writing, or a book series I'm writing. And it just also turned out to be probably a good short little video topic, really. I think as well, Julian Solomita said he was watching it or had been watching it. I don't even know what season I was watching. I don't know if it's just UK or if there's other countries that are doing it, but I've never watched Survivor, so I can't compare it to that. I have no idea what Survivor is like. But Alone was basically a bunch of normal people in the UK, sort of. You can only be so normal to want to do a show like this, who basically have to go and survive in like Canadian wilderness for as long as possible to win money. For a start, they did get some training before going in by themselves. I wish we could have seen that. I would have liked to have known what kind of training they got and seen a little bit of like the preparation for it. But no, we sort of just got started right in the middle of them being dropped off. So they're all dropped off far away from each other, and they basically have to film everything, which I don't know how accurate that is, because it definitely seemed like there were multiple cameras around. So maybe they had some night cameras set up, or like just some cameras set up around the locations of people, where they were dropping people off. But they did have to do a lot of their own camera work a lot of the time. And yeah, you get a basic kit, and then you get a couple of choices for any extras. A lot of people, I didn't really see what their extras were. There was one guy who was actually disabled. I don't remember what his name was, but he was in a road traffic accident where his foot was very badly injured. So he still struggles to walk today, and his chosen survival item was a bow and arrow, basically to hunt for food. I'm like, fair enough. Fair enough. It's also time to take my ADHD meds. But yeah, so we were introduced to this woman called Eva, or Eva, I think it's Eva, and she has EDS. And like, I messaged my friends immediately, like, of course I've managed to choose a show to watch just for like leisure or like passive research for my book, and then I get disability rep, and now I feel like I need to make a video about it. And then somebody else turned up, Alan, who's autistic. So I sent the same message again, being like, of course this has happened to me. So yeah, I just thought it was quite interesting watching these two. So I want to just talk about what they said, what they did whilst on this show, why they went on the show, I don't know. So as I said, Eva was the first person who came on. She has EDS, but she didn't name it. She basically said that she has like a genetic, I can't even remember what she said. I think she just called it a genetic condition where every joint in her body can dislocate, or something like that. I was like, oh, EDS then. Okay, cool. She couldn't get a fire started to boil water that she could drink before it went dark. So she got really dehydrated literally just at day one. And near the end of the first episode, when she did get the fire going and did have a drink, you can actually see her, like, the way she's done the filming, you can see her hands trying to like ignite the fire, and you can really see her hypermobile like fingers. And I'm like, good, because that's something I feel like you don't really see very often when characters or people have EDS, talk about EDS on TV or in films and stuff, is like how many people have such hypermobile hands that affects so many things. Like that's one of my big issues, is how hypermobile my finger joints are. I've done videos on that as well, because that literally impacts everything. That's why I wear my finger splints, which I currently don't know where I've put those. Yeah, that's why I wear finger splints, because then they don't bend the wrong way anymore. They are a bit clunky and annoying to wear all the time, so it's not really doable all the time, every day, everywhere you go. They can fall off your hands quite easily, so it's not great if you're like out and about. You could lose one, drop it down the toilet, which I haven't done, but like apparently that is very common. Yeah, that affects a lot of what I do, whether it's typing, editing my videos, making my art pieces. It all involves like fine motor skills, and my hands often end up hyperextending quite a lot, causing chronic pain in my hands and fingers. Then we had Alan, who was introduced. He talked a little bit more about being autistic than Eva did about being about having EDS. So he was saying things like, when I was a kid, the only time I was happy was when I was outdoors. I like the quiet, I like the peace. I like being in my own headspace. I always knew I was a bit of an oddball, that's for sure, but I didn't really think about why or what at all. I was 30 when I realised I was autistic. I have classic autistic traits. I'm hypersensitive to basically all senses. Same. My smell and sense of touch are really, really sensitive. Hearing can actually be painful to me a lot of the time. And then he has a knowledge / specific interest of foraging, which I think is why he was like, yeah, I could probably do this. At least I have some knowledge about foraging that can help feed me and keep me, I was going to say moistured, hydrated. But yeah, like I really appreciated the way that he was open about a lot of these things, because again, it's not really something you see people talk about a whole lot on mainstream television. Like I really liked his specific conversation around his sensory sensitivities. I'm very similar. I'm quite avoidant because of how sensitive I am to sound, smell, touch, but like it depends. I'm very sensory seeking in that I like touching soft things a lot and wearing soft things, but I'm also so sensitive that there are so many textures that are abhorrent to me. So yeah, that was really nice. I really liked that he also acknowledged and said, like, I didn't know I was autistic until I was 30. We see him laying some snares for food, and he's like, oh, I'm learning on the go, because like, yeah, they gave us a bit of training, but I don't really know what I'm doing. He gets really frustrated with it because it's hard and it's not really working very well. He says, my autistic traits include a very poor short-term memory, terrible sense of direction, and he has to plan really meticulously at home for any journey that he doesn't know really well, which is also something that I really struggle with. I always have to use Google Maps, even if I'm like walking a short distance somewhere that I've been before, and I have to like write out in my notes app the step-by-step of going places, what kinds of transport to get, what to look for, time options as well. And then the same for coming back home. Like I really have to put all of that in place before I go places that I either have never been to or have not often been to. He then gets lost, and I was no shade to this poor man, because God, I don't know how I would actually respond if I did this. Not well. I don't think I would have done very well doing any of this. But like I was thinking when he got lost, I was like, I would have definitely been either like making markers, using something to like, you know, mark where I'd come from, whether it was with like a knife or something, or who knows, like if you had anything like ribbon or rope to tie along, like you could have like tied the rope as you went, followed the rope back and untied the rope, you know, those are things that came to my mind of like, I would have done maybe some of these things, or like specifically noted in my brain like specific like landmarks on the way somewhere, because that's also how I generally navigate places. It's like, oh yeah, there's this landmark here and you turn right here in the, you know, me and my autistic pals all have this same thing where we're like, oh yes, the landmark. Road names, fuck off. Not a fucking clue what any road is called, but, you know, Brighton example, clock tower, turn left. Hit the beach, too far. But yeah, like, that was something that I was thinking, like, I think I would have gotten lost if I didn't do something to try and note my travel. You also then see he starts to get really anxious, and he's then trying to navigate based on like the direction of the sun. I don't know how helpful that will be. I don't think I could do that either. Then we see Eva again. She is actually a vegetarian, has been a vegetarian for quite a long time. And on this show, you do have to hunt, fish, kill things to eat. Unless you're really, really good at foraging, because even Alan was struggling because like his foraging skills are UK based. He did say that he was struggling to work out what a lot of things were in this Canadian woods. So good luck to this girl. But she had to kill a duck for food because it was the only thing she'd managed to catch. And that was horrible. Like in this show, it kind of varies how explicit those kinds of moments are. Like that particular scene was silhouetted and like quite far away. But then you do see things like the participants prepping their catches for food, which I can kind of deal with that. It's the actual like bit that I can't deal with. And I think the duck was the worst one for me because I love ducks. I think ducks are really nice and really cute and I love them. And like they, even if they look a bit different in Canada, like they're kind of familiar, you know? I don't know. Like you go to the park to feed the ducks, my guy. So I personally don't think I could have done that. I think I could have maybe killed some fish. Because, I mean, I do eat fish now as well anyway. I think it would be easier to, like, emotionally easier. I'm not even going to talk about the actual practicality of it. But emotionally, I think it would be easier for me to kill a fish. Yeah, I was like, maybe even a different kind of bird. There were other birds around. Maybe a squirrel. They had squirrels there. I don't think, or some people were really weird and gross. There was one bloke who squashed a mouse because mice were getting in his tent, so he basically had to do like vermin control anyway. But he then ate it. And then he just straight up ate his head. And no, that's too far. And then there was a bloke who was eating squirrels quite a lot. He was the one with the bow and arrow. And yeah, some of the stuff that they were doing was a bit too gnarly for me. But like, I definitely don't think I could have killed a duck. However, all of the fat phobes in my comments occasionally that pop along, I at least I have some like storage. I would have lasted a bit longer out there, you know. These people went in skinny and became emaciated. At least I have some cushion for it, you know. Like, surely, I don't know, wouldn't you have been maybe preparing for being on this show by eating higher calorie foods to put on some more weight and then like doing something to shrink your stomach so that you're not super hungry right away when you turn up? I don't know, I'm just thinking Hunger Games things, you know, because that's what Katniss did. She was like, yeah, I'm going to put on more weight because I know I'm going to drop a lot and it's going to give me some cushioning for like survival. So and I'm sure my stomach will fucking shrink anyway, so it's fine. Anyway, back on to what I was talking about. I do appreciate she did sit there and sort of talk about the ethics of veganism, vegetarianism, the like meat industry in the world. And she was saying like, you know, she's ethically a vegetarian because she is not okay with the ethics of how things go in the UK, in the meat industry and stuff like that. So that's why she's a vegetarian, is she doesn't agree with the ethics. So with this, even though it's really hard, I think she did cry when she had to do it. But she did say that, you know, ethically, this is okay. It's something that she can rationalize a bit easier, because, you know, she was starving. She hadn't eaten really at all for days, and she, you know, was gonna eat as much of it as possible. Not much would go to waste. Then we see Alan again. He's just really talking about being an autistic person. He really loves being alone. He likes to focus without distractions. He finds people are a constant drain on his energy. And he spent a lot of the time singing to himself, but eventually it did start to affect him more. So around like day 15, Alan was struggling because even though he was catching fish, like he was doing really well with catching fish, he was finding it really difficult to stomach the fish as it went on, because he said they were quite fatty fish, and it's the fattiness that was making him feel quite unwell. Although I was also wondering, was he really able to cook the fish as well as he needed to? But yeah, he was really struggling with it because that's all he really had to eat for days and days and days. And the more he had to eat it, the more sick he was feeling. Eva then also disclosed that she has really severe anxiety after her friend ended her own life. And even though I think it was something that happened like maybe 5 years ago, it still felt like 6 months ago to her. And a lot of doing this show was just trying to prove to herself that she is stronger than she thinks she is. But because of that happening to her friend, she's had really severe anxiety. And actually, for a good chunk of this show, a few people who had anxiety felt that their anxiety was alleviated quite a lot, until things got quite bad when it came to the survival and food stuff. Then that was sort of when they decided to call it quits, because they just weren't able to survive really any longer, and the anxiety was making it difficult to rest when they needed to rest. I think Alan got maybe 3rd or 4th place. He was doing this to try and win some money for his family, because I think they were in debt, and he felt like they weren't really able to do things that they wanted to do because of lack of funds. Yeah, again, he also went out because he really just didn't feel well. He did try foraging again, but most of the things were dead by that point. I think he was there like nearly a month, if not over a month. So yeah, the weather got colder. More of the shrubbery and stuff was dying. A lot of the land animals were not really anywhere to be seen either. So yeah, he ended up calling it quits because he just did not feel well. I think he was like, if I don't catch a fish today to feed myself, then I've got to go. And that's kind of it really. I feel like, you know, I wish there was a bit more kind of talked about and shown with the EDS stuff. I feel like we got quite a lot of interesting things for the man with autism. I can't remember if he was ADHD as well, but he also talked about his kids who are ADHD and or autistic. And he did also then talk about how, like, he talked about quite a lot that the longer he was there, the more he was struggling because he was just so fucking bored. And like his ways of entertaining himself that worked initially were no longer really working. And obviously it's not the same, but I do kind of understand that concept of like, I didn't really find the pandemic that difficult initially because I'm very used to being by myself. I quite like my own company. I don't really like going out that much anyway. I have a lot of solitary at home hobbies, but the more that went on and the more I went sort of without in-person contacts and friendship, the harder it was. And I think obviously he's a parent, he's got a wife, he's got a couple of kids, like that will be difficult to be away from them for so long. And yeah, he made some funny comments of like, oh, I don't really know, it's hard to know whether you're actually missed in a house of autistic people, because they don't always really react in the way that you expect them to react, but they do tell you if they've missed you. They just might not act in the way that you think that they should be acting. Yeah, I just thought it was really interesting to watch as well, because like I think generally a lot of survival stuff is not very like disability friendly in a lot of ways, so obviously it's not disability friendly for a lot of people, so it's just interesting for me to sort of see a couple of disabled people, seeing how they were doing with that and how well they were doing with it, how they compensated where they lacked, as well as like how maybe their disability was actually useful in some ways. Like we definitely saw that with the autistic guy. Yeah, I kind of wish we had a little bit more about hEDS and like maybe how that was affecting her ability to participate a bit more. Like I think that would have been good to see. But either way, I enjoyed watching it. It was pretty gross at times. I just have such a morbid fascination with these sorts of things. That's why I'm in a bit of a reality TV kick generally at the moment, but also it is related to the books I'm writing. Sort of something to do with the concepts of reality TV and different kinds of reality TV and their own like unique ways of just torturing people because they need money a lot of the time. And I just thought it was really funny that the one season that I chose to watch, that I didn't even know what season it was, what place in the world it was the season with an autistic and someone with hEDS. I just thought it was like ironic and meant to be, you know. But yeah, so that's my like quick summary and talk about what I thought of the show and things I liked seeing about the disabled participants. Again, like I said, like I had a bit of a weird comment a while back. I think it was when I was talking about maths representation, where someone was like, why do you care about representation when the show is trash anyway? And it's like, well, you've missed the entire point and clearly not watched any of my videos. But like the point is, reality TV is mainstream TV, and the more like marginalized people of different communities are on them talking about their experiences, showing you that they are literally human beings, the more like the more understanding that can brew in like the general public. Like I mean, maths had huge viewership this year. It was massive, like it was breaking records this year. And then the return of Big Brother was also like a huge viewership, even though it was on at the same time as maths. So and like, yeah, while these shows have a lot of issues, obviously, that I have also talked about at other times, it is also like, this is a massive platform for your average, at least anyway in the UK, your average UK person, viewer, who maybe doesn't really know a lot about disabled people, doesn't really know a lot about like people of colour, for example, or different religions and different cultures, or queer or trans people, and like, you know, and then there's the overlaps of those things as well. Many people don't step outside that bubble, either because they don't want to, don't feel like they have to, don't feel like they need to, or maybe because they can't. There are lots of places in the UK that it is very difficult to find and be in those community spaces. Like, I mean, where I live isn't great. Like, I don't live in Brighton or Brighton and Hove. I live in literally the middle of buttfuck nowhere. We don't have pavements, we don't have lights, we have a bus that runs maybe hourly. We also have a train that runs maybe hourly, but it's in the village and you need to have a lift there. Or you've got like a 50-minute walk without pavements on dangerous country roads. Like, we don't have a lot directly around where I live. I'm definitely lucky to have relatively easy access to places like Brighton, but there are other places that just don't really have that set up, and the way that you learn and get that understanding of community spaces or communities outside of your own is through watching things on TV or things you read or other media that you listen to and consume. Like, that's why it's important to see the representation. Like, yes, it does piss me off that a lot of the time it's clearly just a tick box strategy, but hopefully the people who put themselves through that will lead to feedback and change for the better for the next people who will be on these shows or similar shows. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say really on that topic for now. I'm definitely looking at other things that I want to watch, whether they're like longer series or shorter series, or like I've said a million times, like short, like episodes in bigger popular series. But let me know if you've seen Alone, what you thought of it. If you've watched other seasons or seasons from other countries, let me know. Do you think that you would be able to do something like that if you're disabled? Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, share the videos, trying to get to that 1k before the end of December. And yeah, it all helps with algorithmic stuff. I really appreciate your views as well on all of my videos. You know, it's something that if you have a spare 5 minutes to do a little bit here and there, it does really help my channel. Just watching my videos, sharing my videos, liking a few videos, leaving some comments. It does make a bit of a difference. It signals who is interested in my videos and who they should suggest them to, I think. But yeah, that's it for this week, and I will see you next week. Bye.